What's good, YouTube? This is BoxingWave, and I just want to make a really quick video on this because I'm pulled over and I'm actually premiering a wave report as we speak right now. But I wanted to just make a quick video about this topic between Keith Thurman and Errol Spence facing each other. Now, according to ESPN's Mike Coppinger, right, he's tweeted that Errol Spence and Keith Thurman is pretty close to being finalized, right? And the fight is going to be at 154, not 147, where they both currently fight at, and where Errol Spence holds 3 of the 4 major titles. Keith Thurman is the mandatory, the WBC mandatory, and for the title at 147. And the only question I have, because look, I already expected, I think we all expecting Keith Thurman to be Errol's next opponent, right? They're going to do a pay-per-view and everything, fine. What I don't understand is if Keith Thurman is the mandatory for the title at 147 for the WBC, how can they not make it a title fight then? What's the purpose of fighting Keith Thurman then if you don't have to fight her when you already had mandatories, all right? Another thing is the way that Keith Thurman just suddenly was made Mando for Errol Spence. I thought that was ridiculous from the beginning of this. You know, Keith didn't fight for 2 years, comes back, beats a super lightweight that just had got knocked out by Tank Davis. He beats him, and out of nowhere, they just move Keith Thurman all the way up to the top of the rankings with the WBC. And it's not like he did it. They did it exactly when Barrios lost to Thurman. They did it like over the summer in like a random sneaky way. Like they just moved them up on the charts without any additional fights being made. You know, they put Keith above Ennis. They put him above Virgil Ortiz. It just never made any sense. Stanionis has been a mandatory for that WBA title for a while. And they just accepted for Stanionis to take a step. I mean, he agreed on a step aside with Ugas and Pacquiao, right? And then once Spence won against Ugas, or that was the actual step aside, and Stanionis beat Butayev, he was the mandatory again. And now that Bud and Spence didn't happen, he's being told again to fight Virgil Ortiz and to defend his title again. But now Keith Thurman is going to fight Errol Spence, and the titles are not even going to be on the line. So what makes this a mandatory if the titles are not on the line? Because the IBF, the WBA, and the WBC approved to have Keith Thurman fight Errol Spence as a mandatory fight. So it doesn't make sense, you know. And again, there's probably going to be more information when this finally gets announced, like it is confirmed, right? Because it's not confirmed, it's being finalized, and this is the source. Mike Coppinger is the source of this, so he may be wrong. It's been wrong before, but this is what he's saying, and this is my thoughts. I just don't know how that would work out. I can understand Spence having a fight and not defending his titles. What I don't understand is how do you do it when you have 3 mandatories that's currently waiting for a title shot against you? How do you dismiss those guys and go and have a fight with Keith Thurman when the titles are not on the line? What makes Keith Thurman a Mando then? If they're going up to 154, which I expected to. I told you guys, once Spence and Bud fell apart, that their fight, whenever they decide to fight, if the fight happens, it will not be at 147. It will not be for those titles, because it's just too many Mando obligations that Spence has to do. Bud only holds 1 title, so it's different for him. But Spence holds 3. And with Boots being a Mando, with Stanionis being a Mando and Keith Thurman magically becoming a Mando. Not to discredit anything that he's done in his past, because he's done a lot in his past. I know he's a former unified champion, so I'm not trying to take anything away from him when it comes to that. But recent years, and I'm talking about the last 4 or 5 years, Keith Thurman hasn't been that active, and he lost the one challenging fight that he took against Manny Pacquiao. So with that being said, what has he done lately? How does he get dibs above Ennis, Ortiz, Stanionis, all of those guys? That's just my one question. And now that they're getting closer to making this fight and it being at 154, how does Spence hold on to the titles if the titles are not on a line? If the titles are not on a line, it sounds like a voluntary fight to me. How is it a mandatory if Keith wins, he doesn't win a title? But this is what's being reported for now. All right, so, you know, when more information come out, I would definitely follow up with you guys. I just can't do it today. But when more information comes out, I would definitely talk about it. Yes, you could fight above the weight class and hold on to your titles. But if you have 3 mandatories, you know, especially with one where you have one fighter that's been a Mando, he going on 3 fights now, and Imantas Stanionis, how does the WBA approve that? How does the WBC approve it? How does the IBF approve it when they have their own mandatories? You know, for a fight that not many people are asking for. It's not a bad fight. Keith Thurman, people still want the fight. You know, people still want it. I mean, obviously, Bud was the one fight that everybody wants, you know, but it just doesn't seem right, you know, and I just would love to hear if this is true and this fight happens, where it happens at a different weight class and the titles are not on the line. I would love to hear how this can work out without being stripped. It just doesn't make sense to me. How can all the sanctioning bodies agree to this? And if they are agreeing to this, then you have to be fair with some of the other fighters that get stripped and they make, you know, they enforce their rules so strictly, but not in this current situation. You know, I can see it happening for Bud and Spence, or Fury against, you know, Usyk in their situation, where they just recently canceled the Mando for Filip Hrgovic fighting Usyk because they're trying to get Tyson Fury to fight Usyk. But for this fight here, I really don't understand. And I don't believe that Spence ever comes back down to 154. All right, so if he doesn't, they should just make those belts. I mean, 147. If they are going to fight at 154, Spence is not coming back down to 147. It just doesn't make sense to me. But as soon as I find out more info, I'll definitely follow up with you guys. I'm just giving you my first thoughts on this. All right, these are not final. It's nothing confirmed yet. But once it's confirmed, I will follow up with you guys. All right, y'all have a good day. Peace.